Go. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for coming out on this frosty morning. I think I had 2 degrees. What'd y'all have in Blacksburg?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know? Cold. You had cold is what you had.
Here too.
We 2 here too. So yeah, cold. One of our major themes that we've studied as we're going through this is that this idea that the God of the New Testament is a God of love and mercy, and the God of the Old Testament is a God of anger and wrath. It's just not supported by the text. It's just not what it says. He's the same God. He's the same God, and yet there is this tension between his mercy and his wrath. We have seen his wrath more than once. Several times we've seen his wrath. But there's a tension. And part of what we're studying is to understand how God can have these two things. When is the mercy going to show? When is the wrath going to show? And it's one of the great tensions that we will see through the whole Bible, through all of it. But there's another tension. It doesn't get as much noise made about it. And that's the tension between life and death. When the Israelites are in the wilderness and they're getting these instructions from God, God's going to tell them what to do. Lots of stuff with the tabernacle, how the priesthood works. But he's going to talk a lot about when they go into the land. Here's what I want you to do when you go into the land. Stuff specific to their inheritance, Jubilee, all of this stuff, first fruits that you get from the land. Lots of instructions. And along with that, God plainly lays out, he's like, listen, if you obey me, then things are going to go well for you. And if you don't obey me, not so good. Drought, wild beasts eating your kids, there's a whole list of things. And yet, so we kind of get this idea that this is the way God works. You do good, you get long life, you get blessings. You do bad, you get cut down. But not exactly. Not exactly, The very first story with human beings, they do bad, they get cast out of the garden. It seems like we got this theme going. Second story, we got 2 brothers. One of them, great, offers what God wants. The other one, not good, kills his brother. And so the one who did well, he gets murdered in the field by his brother. The one who murders, he gets protection. And we could go over and over and over again with examples of people who do well and it doesn't go so well for them. Johnson's so excited to talk about Job. So excited to talk about Job. And a prime example of that. And so there's another tension of life and death, of blessing and punishment, and when it comes and when it doesn't. I mean, certainly through Abraham, we seem to hit this theme. Abraham doing what God wants, God blesses him. He lives this abnormally long life. Same thing with Isaac. Jacob, I don't know, maybe he's doing what God wants, maybe not. Does get long life, gets lots of blessings. Sodom and Gomorrah, they get cut down. But the book of Kings has got something to say about this subject. And that's what we're going to study today. We've got 5 chapters that make up the end. And let's see, is 22 the last chapter? I think it is. No, it goes on a little more, 24. But there's a section from 22 to 24 that is going to deal with kind of the end of the kingdom. And we don't have enough time to go through it verse by verse, so I'm going to kind of summarize. But there are key verses that I want to read. I've got a list here to make sure I hit them all. But it starts with Hezekiah. And this is in chapter 18. And Hezekiah is going to be a good king. Hezekiah is going to be a great king. And we've had a long line of terrible kings. And then even when there's a good king that comes along, it'll be like, he was a good king. He followed in the footsteps of David. But, he left the high places, or he did this, he didn't get rid of this. We don't get that with Hezekiah. Like those things that they left, the high places, no, man, he's going after those. He's going to cut down the high places. He's going to break down the bronze snake that's been there since Moses, and they've been burning incense to it. It's even going to say about him that in verse 5, Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, either before him or after him. Like, man, this guy is great. And so you might think that, like, because he's great, things are going to go really well for him. But not so much. He's going to rebel against the king of Assyria, and the king of Assyria is not going to like that. And so he's going to come to get him. And at first, Hezekiah is going to pay a tribute. He's going to send him this message like, look, man, I was wrong. I should not have rebelled against you. And I'm going to read verses 15 and 16. So Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the temple of the Lord and in the treasuries of the royal palace. And at this time, Hezekiah, king of Judah, stripped off the gold which he had covered the doors and doorposts of the temple of the Lord, and gave it to the king of Assyria. And that may not mean so much to us, but to them that's like, oh, ooh. I mean, when Jesus comes around, he's going to say that, y'all have the saying that if a man swears by the temple, it doesn't mean anything. But if he swears by the gold of the temple, he's got to keep his word when he swears by the gold of the temple, because the gold of the temple, it reminds me of the story of the gift of the Magi. I remember the husband that's got the watch that he loves, and the wife's got the hair, and she cuts off her hair to buy him a chain for his watch, and he sells his watch so he can get her stuff for his hair. He sent the watch and cut off her hair and sent the hair to the king. And yet, that doesn't even seem like it works, because the king of Assyria is still coming after him. And in fact, he is going to sack every single city in the whole nation except for Jerusalem. Why not Jerusalem? What do we learn about Jerusalem? In the time of David, it is a fortress. It's a fortress. And it's the last thing that's standing in the whole land. And they get to this one, and I'm going to read verse 18. King of Assyria is not there himself, but he sent an army and a field commander. And that is this field commander, has called for the king, and Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, the palace administrator, Shebna, the secretary, and Joah, the son of Asaph, the recorder, went out to them. I don't know if you missed that there, but they called for the king, and he sends out 3 officials to go meet with them. So for some reason, the king has not went out. And then they give this whole big, long speech about how, you better submit to us, you better not trust in Egypt, you better not trust in your God. In fact, it was your God that told us to come and kill you. You better submit. And then we get down to verse 32, and they're talking, and they're talking in the presence of the people. The people are along the wall listening to this conversation. You got the 3 officials and this entourage from Assyria, but everybody else is listening, and they're kind of speaking to the people up there. And they said, they're like, don't listen to your king and make peace. Things will go well for you until I come and take you to a land of your own, a land of grain and a new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey. Choose life and not death. It's interesting. This envoy that's come, that's telling them a bunch of lies, by the way. It's like, choose life and not death.
He uses a lot of the language of the promised land.
Yes, milk and honey. Yeah. Bread. Yeah, we'll take you to the promised land. Come over to the promised land we're going to take you to. Choose life, not death. Interesting. And so anyway, in chapter 19, when King Hezekiah heard this, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and went into the temple of the Lord. Now, that's interesting. He didn't go out to them, but he is going into the temple of the Lord here after he hears this. So they go into the temple of the Lord. He's basically going to ask God for mercy. Please don't let this happen. And then Isaiah is going to say, no, listen, things are okay. When the king of Assyria, this is verse 7, listen, when he hears, this is the king of Assyria, hears a certain report, I will make him want to return to his own country, and there I will have him cut down with the sword. And there's several things through the story that you're kind of like, what? The first thing is that Hezekiah sends this apology and this great tribute, basically everything he has to the king, but the king is still attacking him and asking them to surrender, and it seems like he's already surrendered. What's going on there? Well, here, Isaiah's like, well, don't worry. He's going to get this report, and that's going to make him return to his own country. Things will be fine. Well, the very next thing that happens is he gets this report that there's this other king that's rebelling, and he's marching out against him. And so you kind of think like, oh, okay, you got this report. Things are fine. No. The king of Assyria sends him another letter, basically trying to hurry things along. He's like, listen, your time's up. You need to surrender. So Hezekiah, again, he goes and he lays out this letter before God, and he prays. And then Isaiah comes with a poem, because that's what you need, of course, is a poem. And he's got this poem about, basically, it's like this victory poem of, they're going to get destroyed, we're going to be fine. And then we have the famous story where in the middle of the night, the angel of the Lord comes, he slays 185,000 of the soldiers, and then the king's like, I need to go back home. And that's the part of this that gets told, right? Like when we tell the story, it's the most interesting part. The angel of the Lord, 185,000. It's like, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. But in case you haven't missed it, like, this was horrible. They took every single city in the land except for Jerusalem. He sent him every penny that he had. He stripped off the gold off the doorpost of the temple to send him. They were still under siege, but then there's a reprieve. The next story is in chapter 20. This is also kind of a famous story. And in those days, Hezekiah became ill and was at the point of death. The prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, went to him and said, this is what the Lord says, put your house in order because you are going to die. You will not recover. And Hezekiah is going to pray to the Lord. He's like, look, haven't I been good? Haven't I obeyed you? Please, I choose life. I choose life, God. And we get God's answer in verse 6. It actually starts in verse 5. Let's read verse 5 too, because it's good. Go back and tell Hezekiah, the ruler of my people. This is God talking to Isaiah. It's a message for Hezekiah. This is what the Lord, the God of your father David says. I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. He's got to. It's the God that hears the cry. Of course he heard his prayer and saw his tears. I will heal you. On the third day from now, you will go up to the temple of the Lord. And he's saying he's going to go up to the temple. It's interesting. I think he went up to the temple in the last story. I will add 15 years to your life, and I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city for the sake of my servant David. And then Isaiah said, prepare a poultice of figs. And they did so and applied it to the boil, and Hezekiah recovers. Let's keep going. Let's get the whole story, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about this. All right, so after he recovers, it seems, the king of Babylon, this other foreign power, he heard about Hezekiah being ill. And so he sends some envoys and a gift and a letter saying, man, I heard about your illness. Sorry about that. I really hope you get better. And Hezekiah takes them and he shows them everything he has, all of his treasures, all of his silver, all of his gold. Which, by the way, didn't he just get rid of all that stuff? Isn't it all gone? I don't know. Anyway, he shows them all this stuff, and then Isaiah comes and he's like, who was that? He says, well, some people from Babylon wishing me well. What did you show them? I showed them everything. Well, they're going to get everything, Hezekiah. All of it. But it's not going to happen to you. It's going to happen to your offspring. And Hezekiah, great king that he is, following the Lord, it's like, well, that's awesome. They're not coming while I'm alive. It's just my kids will have to deal with this. That's great. That's Hezekiah's story. Chapter 21 is about Manasseh. We had a great king. What do you think's coming next? He had a great king. This is his son. Great king. Manasseh is the worst. I mean, he might be worse than Ahab. And it's going to go through and it's going to detail, like the whole chapter is, almost the whole chapter is about all the terrible, horrible things that he does. And he becomes king when he's 55 years old. He becomes king when he's 12. He reigns for 55 years. Interesting fact, longest reign of any of the kings. Hezekiah, let's go back. So that's interesting. He became king when he was 12. Manasseh becomes king when he's 12, reigns for 55 years. Hezekiah was 25 when he became king. He reigned for 29 years old. Let's just do a little bit of math here. It was 14 years into his reign when all this terrible stuff happens. And then he gets 15 years added. All right, 14, 15 is 29. So he's 25 when he becomes king. In 14 years, he's 39. All of these horrible things happen. And then he makes it from 25 plus 29 is 54. And then he finally he dies when he's 54. Manasseh, terrible, horrible, worst king ever, becomes king when he's 12, has the longest reign of any of the kings of Judah or Israel. Well, we don't read about anything bad that happens to him. And then at the end of his passage, this is in verse 18 of chapter 21, Manasseh rested with his ancestors and was buried in his palace garden, the garden of Uzzah. All right, man, terrible, horrible king, apparently not invaded by Syria, apparently doesn't have to strip the gold from anywhere and send it, doesn't die young, doesn't have a boil that's going to kill him at 39. I don't know. Let's keep going. Because chapter 22 is Josiah. Josiah was 8 years old. This is 22, verse 1. 8 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. His mother's name was Jedidiah, daughter of Vadiah. She was from Bozkath. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and followed completely the ways of his father David, not turning aside to the right or to the left. I love that phrase. This chapters are going to be like all the things that he does. So first what's going to happen is he's going to say, we need to renovate the temple. My grandfather, Hezekiah, he kind of wrecked it. And then Manasseh certainly didn't fix it. So we got to fix up the temple. And while they're fixing the temple, they find one of the scrolls of the law. And they come out and they read it. And Hezekiah is just like, oh man, this is like everything that God said not to do, we've been doing. And all the stuff he said to do, we haven't been doing. And we're going to get punished because of this. We got to straighten up. And that's what happens. He just goes on this crusade. His life is this crusade of looking for evil anywhere he can find it, picking up things, looking underneath it, sweeping out, trying to get rid of every single piece of evil that is in the whole country and clearing it up. That's what happens through Josiah's reign. God tells him through one of the prophets, through a prophetess, here that, like, yeah, you read it in the scroll. Israel has been evil. Judah's been evil. They're going to get conquered, but not you. You're going to be okay. Kind of a call back to Hezekiah, right? Like, bad things are coming, but it's going to happen to your children. And he says, like, you're going to be buried in peace, Josiah. You're going to be buried in peace. Later, we find out what that means. The king of Egypt is he's aligned with the king of Assyria. And Josiah marches out to do battle with him, gets cut down in battle by the Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And then some people go and they get his body and they bring it back and they bury it in peace. That's what God meant by, or in pieces, maybe in pieces. Maybe God meant, maybe there's an S that was missing. Maybe God meant you will be buried in pieces instead of in peace. I don't think that's how it works. But anyway, Josiah, 8 years old, reigns 31 years, gets cut down. What is our problem here? If it's not obvious. Like the good kings are getting waylaid, and the terrible, horrible king has this really long, uneventful reign where things go great. Like, what is going on here? And I'll just pause a minute and get your thoughts. What do y'all think about this?
So I have put a lot of thought into this lately. I've shared it with the youth group a couple weeks ago, and I've shared it with a lot of people last little bit. But we have the old saying that says, no good deed goes unpunished. And it kind of seems like that's true. I mean, even biblically, we see, and I think that is put in place for a reason, because why do we do good? Is it so we will receive blessing, or is it because it's the right thing? Are we so conditioned to expect that good things will happen to us if we do good things? If we do bad things, then we're punished.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clear that that's not how it works.
At least not all the time.
Right. So, and we talk about that with the Proverbs. Proverbs are general sayings that are sayings that are generally true,
Mm-hmm.
but not always.
Mhm.
If you raise a child in the things that sometimes they'll do right and not part from it, but sometimes they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that those things are set up in ways that to make sure that our hearts are right, that we're not just doing things because we have to,
Mm-hmm.
or because, well, it's the right thing to do, that we get pushed back, and it builds character. And that's where I've come in my thought process through some of this stuff.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
I would say in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, we see godly servants of the Lord being persecuted to death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, but we have eternity to look forward to when God will hold everyone accountable and reward the righteous and punish the wicked.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know Job, the question, why do good people suffer on earth? And why do wicked people
One of the big ones.
Mm-hmm. And that seems to be a part of the messed up world we live in, that life isn't always fair. Sometimes good people suffer
Mm-hmm.
through no fault of their own. Sometimes evil people seem to be prospering. But we have eternity as a fallback that God promises, no more sin, no more sorrow, reward for the righteous and punishment for the wicked. So, but in the Old Testament, there's times when God seems to set things right on earth, where He played, but sometimes not.
Sometimes not.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
You have the line of David. Yeah, the end of the line, Jesus. He's got 3 years and they kill him. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way it goes.
Yes. So, good Good. Yes.
In the New Testament, it says, when you do wrong, you think you're gonna get by with it, it's gonna be announced from the rooftops. And
Yeah.
I know that's true. And also, when you do wrong, it's recorded in the books.
Yeah. Recorded in the books.
It's in
Yeah.
the books. So, you know, if you don't get punished here,
So this side of the room seems to think, well, it's all going to get sorted out in the end.
it will.
It's going to get sorted out in the judgment. This side of the room seems to think like it's character building. Listen, you need to walk uphill 12 miles to school through the snow today.
I mean, and I'm not disagreeing with them that it won't be worked out in the end, but yes, I think that it builds character as well.
Yeah, builds character. This is the building character side. All right.
And
Yeah.
to that point, I mean, it seems like some of the apostles say, well, if you really want to be like Jesus, you're going to have to suffer. If you want to have Christ-like character, you're going to have to endure trouble. That's what he means.
Yeah, so many things come to me. You know, Paul saying, well, to live is Christ, to die is gain. Jesus saying about John, what if I want this one to remain until I come back? Oh, the rest of y'all not going well. Also, you've been studying the prophets. Which prophet do you want to be, Ron? Which prophet's life are you like, I'm picking that one?
Right. As
None of them.
None of them. In my class, I'm glad I'm not an Old Testament prophet.
Yeah.
Because of the demands that were placed on them,
Absolutely.
not only by their message, but what their lifestyle, what they were supposed to do.
My daughter, I read a lot of Ezekiel because my daughter wanted to talk about it. Oh my goodness, did that dude. He got it bad.
It could be the same thing, like the apostles, what Jesus told them, what they were to be able to do, the miracles and stuff that they were gonna do, but they still yet was gonna suffer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, can you walk the path that I've walked? Oh, you're gonna.
Yeah, you're going.
You're going to. You're going to. All right. So, lots of great thoughts. I like them. I don't think they're out of line with what I think this is saying. But it is saying something. There's a reason this is here. It is here for a reason. And we've kind of seen this pattern. The end of Judges. Wild, wild stories that were all interconnected that were trying to tell us something. The end of 1st and 2nd Samuel. Kind of crazy stories with David that had a point. It was trying to tell us something. We're coming to the end of Kings, and it's trying to tell us something. It's trying to tell us something. The first question I want to ask you, did Hezekiah make the right decision when he prayed to God to ask for more life? What is the text telling us?
God hears him.
God hears him. I mean, seems to be a little complicated. It's definitely something to wrestle with. I would say no. I would say the text is saying, because this thing happens with Babylon after, and the story that happens with the second half of his kingship, I don't want to say the second half of his life, but his 29 years of being king are kind of divided into two sections. 14 years on the front end. The nation is getting ready to be destroyed. And then, by the way, let me get this part out of the way. That event, him being on death's bed, the Bible is trying to tell you it happens during this time that they're under siege from Assyria. Like, it leaves you all of these little clues to see. Why didn't he go out? They asked for the king. He doesn't go out. But he does go to the temple. Why does he go to the temple? Because he's been healed. It says he's healed and he goes to the temple. It's leaving you all these clues. It happens right at this time. God has set this up so that, like, you had 14 years. Now the nation's going to be gone. It's time to wipe them out. Why? Because Israel has been evil. Because Judah has been evil. They got to get wiped out. And he ends up saving the whole, not the nation, just this one city. By the way, it's not a very big city. It's kind of small. It's on this ridge. It's constrained by geography. It's like 14, 15 acres, something like that. It's not very big. It's this tiny place in this whole land that hasn't been conquered yet. He does save that city, but he just delays it. He's just delaying it. God delays it for him. And I think what the text is saying is like, nah, the envoys from Assyria, they're saying choose life and not death. God, he told him, get your house in order because you're going to die. That's what God said. Hezekiah's like, no, I choose life. I'm listening to the Assyrians that are out there. That's the voice that I'm listening to. Not listening to your voice, God, who told me to get my house in order because I'm going to die. I'm listening to the voices of these other guys out here. I'm choosing life. And I think the story is very clear that, like, nah, it's not good. It ends up going horribly.
Why do you think God granted him 15 more years of life then?
Because he is the God that hears the cry. Because he is the God who will change his plans. But it's a great question. Sorry, but this is a fantastic question to wrestle with. I made it sound like the answer, well, the answer is easy. It's not that easy, but it is. He's the God who hears the cry. That's what it says. I've heard your cry and I saw your tears. Right. So I'm showing up here to change my path, to do it. And he does. It's not going to be good. You shouldn't have done it. It's not going to be good, but I'll do it.
In theory, Hezekiah could have lived those last 15 years in a better way. That's not on God.
It's not on God.
It's Hezekiah's fault.
It's Hezekiah's fault. But God knew it was going to happen.
Rita was going to say something.
Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, no, if he had oil, he was unclean. So
To get clean.
to say he was clean.
Yes.
Was the way.
Fantastic. I missed that. That's good.
So, but he did, in his 15 years, guess what he raised? One of the worst kings.
Oh, how old is he when he becomes king? Oh, yes. I missed that too. So 3 years after this happens, his father's Manasseh, the worst king ever. That's what he does in the second half.
So it's complicated.
It's complicated, but then if you don't have Manasseh, you don't get Josiah.
Right.
So it's complicated, but because we had a week off last week, like I got to read this extra, and I keep reading and I keep seeing, like I didn't see that choose life and not death until like last night. Like the more you keep reading it, it's the poster board word search with 3.1 million characters in it. You keep searching, you will keep finding. All right, we're almost out of time. I haven't even really got to the point of this. I didn't look at whether this whole thing is a chiasm. It's got to be a chiasm. It's got to be a chiasm. It's a prophet sandwich. You got your kings, you got your prophets, Elijah, Elisha. You got your other kings. It's got to be a whole chiasm. And if it's a whole chiasm, what is going to be the center of this whole chiasm? We got two prophets in the middle. What happens in between the two prophets? Elijah is called up to heaven. Let that sink in for a minute. We're dealing with this question of, should Hezekiah have went up to heaven or should he have stayed here on this earth? And the treasure of the whole thing is this story about how Elijah goes up to heaven before it's time. Not when he dies of old age of natural causes, but when God calls him away. When God calls him away. The more you read this, the more you will see. So Josiah, awesome king. In my opinion, the best king ever, gets cut down in war, which is kind of the opposite of peace. But God is saying something like, you lived, you repented, you did what you were supposed to have done here. I'm calling you out in a blaze of glory. The next king spends his final days in chains in Egypt. In chains in Egypt. We went back to Egypt and we're slaves again. You want to do that? Or do you want to go out in a blaze of glory like Josiah? You want to go out in a blaze of glory like Josiah. This whole thing is telling us that I got a purpose for you. I got something for you to do here. He had something to do for Elijah. And Elijah doesn't do it until after this whole thing in chapter 19, in the cave, when he's arguing with God. It's after that that he goes out and he makes a disciple. And that he sets up this system of rabbi and disciple that's going to be the system that Jesus goes into and that he chooses as his profession. He's got something for him to do. And then I got to get you out of here because you're done.
It's what you said, Ryan, purpose, plan. God has his
God has his plan. God has his purpose for you. And it's not necessarily to live a long, comfortable life here. That's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. Some people he's going to choose to have a long life. He's going to choose that for Abraham. He's going to choose it for Isaac. He's going to choose it for John. But it's not the same plan for everyone. Some of us are going to get cut down when we're younger. And when God does that, did God punish Hezekiah with this illness? No, it's like, I'm getting you out of here before all the mess starts. Does God punish Josiah when he goes out into battle and gets cut down? No, God makes it very clear. Like, that's going to happen because I'm getting you out of here before the really bad stuff starts. And I didn't read the verse, but essentially God says that to Josiah. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting you out of here. It's a hard lesson to learn. There's an even harder one that comes in Isaiah. This is the first one I think that challenges the way we think. And we need to sit and wrestle with that and say, have we got this right? Am I supposed to be praying for a long life full of comfort? Is that what God wants for me? Is that how he's going to reward me? It's not where the reward comes. That's not the reward. It's not the reward I'm looking for. See you next week.